So, what if I told you that one of the characters on my favorite season of American Horror Story Coven was based on a real person? Now, I know you're wondering what season, of course, and what
Mhm.
character, because there are more than a few in the American Horror Story lexicon. And I'll tell you first, welcome, seekers, to this week's The Haunting Truth. This is with Woo, of course, and with me always is Jazzy Jen, because she's got that swing and groove. And this week, we return to one of my favorite places, New Orleans. But before we go on, I have to give the disclaimer, of course. So, this episode contains historical violence and is intended for educational entertainment purposes only. Your discretion advised. And I think that's the shortest disclaimer we've ever done. So, let's just go on.
I think I think it is.
It most definitely is. Eventually at some point you got to bring it back to basics and then you go back up.
Yeah.
But as our dedicated listeners know, and to all one or two of you, thank you so much. New Orleans has a place in my heart, and we've done a number of episodes centered on that glorious, never to be replicated historical city. So we're going to do a quick call out to Mary Jane Bricktop, my favorite, and Zack and Addie, episodes 12 and 15. Previous, please go back and check them out. Bricktop especially because she's wow, she is something. But moving on, Jen. Are you familiar with the Axeman of New Orleans?
I don't I don't think I am.
Oh, this is going to be fun then. Okay. So many people today are familiar with him due to his character in season 3 of American Horror Story Coven. Yes, that is my favorite season. And that smooth talking jazz man with a taste for chaos and Jessica Lange, or Lange, however you say it, was played exquisitely by Danny Houston. You might know him. He was in X-Men Wolverine. He was in Clash of the Titans, and yes, I'm giving another reference, but this is the newer Clash of the Titans, not the older one. Um,
Okay.
30 Days a Night, he was one of the big vampire people. But
One of
anyway,
the big vampire people.
he's one of those big vampire people. But anyway, you'll know him if you see
Okay.
him. I'm going to put a clip up on the images there. But he is actually the half brother of Angelica Houston, which I know you know
Okay.
who she is,
Yes, I do.
and he is the uncle of Jack Houston, who was the key player in Boardwalk Empire that he was shot and had the mask on half of his face.
Oh, I know who he is. Yes.
And he played Lasher in Mayfair Witches. Yeah, so
Yes.
really
Yeah.
talented family. So they are all together. But anyway, that's how most people know of the Axeman was due to his character that he played in that show. So let me tell you how he came to be known as the Axeman. So we're going to go back to 1918 New Orleans. We've talked about this time before, and this was a very turbulent and artistic time with a lot of cultural exploration. This was the time of Jim Crow, World War I, Spanish flu, and the birth of jazz. Now, jazz had been in existence previously, but it really entered the mainstream between 1917 and 1920. So if you recall, jazz age is noted as the 1920s.
Right.
And what I think drove that here is the closure of Storyville in 1917. So, Storyville, which was located in Faubourg-Treme, which is a short walk from the French Quarter in New Orleans, was the legendary red light district that was in operation from 1897 to 1917. So, this was the incubator for jazz for 2 decades and was actually ordered to be shut down in November 1917 by the order of the U.S. Navy because they had banned prostitution within 5 miles of a military base during World War I.
Oh, okay.
So this included Naval Station New Orleans on the Mississippi, and it included the Southern Railroad Terminal, which is where all the troops and the sailors moved into the city in enormous numbers, just blocks from the Basin Street entrance to Storyville. So you can imagine we've got all of these young men that are
Yeah.
trooping through here. You got a nice red light district, music, partying, all the kind of stuff. But what this closure ended up doing was displacing the hundreds of jazz musicians that had made their homes and lives there. So this sent them up the Mississippi River to Chicago, which is where you see a lot of jazz popping out in Chicago
Yeah.
before it trickled out around the rest of the U.S. But that's how jazz was spread. It was these displaced jazz musicians because the government didn't want the prostitutes disrupting their young men that they were getting ready to send over to war.
Which makes sense if you know anything about the Civil War.
Yep. So a few notable artists that were in that was Louis Armstrong. I know you've heard of Louis
Oh, I
Armstrong.
love Louis Armstrong.
He was a teenager back then at that time, and he was one of the ones displaced. And then Jelly Roll Morton was another one who was coming up and like learning.
Mm,
So I think we're gonna have
yes.
some more episodes coming on Storyville, but that really gives you the context of the time on where we are. So then you hit what, 6 months after the closures? 6 months on May 23rd, 1918. Joseph, who was an Italian immigrant grocer, and his wife Catherine Maggio are found attacked in their home, their throats cut by their own axe, which was then left behind. And this was the start of the Axeman's reign of terror. So, little over a month later, we had Louis Bessumer and Harriet Lowe, which was another grocer, and his mistress. They were found in a pool of their own blood when no one opened the store that morning. Both had been struck with an axe. Louis ultimately survived, but Harriet did not. August 5th, a little bit over 5 weeks later, 1918, same time, Mrs. Edward Schneider, who was 8 months pregnant, awoke in her bedroom to see a dark figure standing over her. She was bashed repeatedly, but ended up surviving, as did her baby girl. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, so she had will to live or something than that. But apparently her living did not make the Axeman happy because 5 days later he hit another person. Joseph Romano, another Italian immigrant grocer, was attacked in his niece's home and lost his life due to axe injuries a day or two later. His two nieces reported seeing a large dark man flee the scene through the back door. And then we have March 1919. Charlie Cortamiglia, you guessed it, another Italian immigrant grocer. His wife Rosie and their 2-year-old daughter Mary were attacked just across the Mississippi in Gretna. Both the parents survived, however, little Mary did not, unfortunately,
Oh,
in that case.
come
Yeah,
on. That's the worst.
it is the worst. October 27th, 1919, Mike Pepitone, yet one more Italian immigrant grocer, was attacked in his bedroom. And Esther, his wife, reported waking up and hearing a struggle. And later, she would accuse a Joseph Mumfrey, which was a neighbor um, that was a competitor in business as well.
Mhm.
And she would shoot him dead. And she was convicted
Whoa.
and sentenced to 10 years. I might do another episode on her because this is a pretty wild story. So we've got all of these things going on. The police are flummoxed. The axemen would break in, attack while the victims slept, usually with their own axes, and then he would leave them behind. And then just disappear. There were no leads, and the whole city ended up breaking into a panic. But then
Did,
after all of that, go ahead.
mhm. I was going to
Go ahead.
say, how did he know they were all going to have axes?
Nobody knows. I mean, I
Okay.
guess maybe it was pretty common back then if you've got a fireplace and you've got wood, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
I've
know.
never been to New Orleans, so I was like, is it really that cold? That was my only thought
No, it's
process.
really not. But if maybe they're cooking food or something, like cook
Yeah. Oh, that
fires or
makes sense.
something.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, but they did. Or maybe he went to other Italian immigrant grocers' houses and they didn't have axes and he left them alone. I don't know. But then
That
after,
could be real. Like he
it
could
could
have
be
been
real.
like, "Hey, you have an axe."
Yeah, you hear those crimes of opportunity. I was just listening to one the other day, and a guy attacked somebody just because the window was open. He walked by like he didn't know him. Just opportunity. Maybe. I don't know. We don't know. But after this spate of horror and exodus, he was gone. After October 27th, he's not heard from again. So why? So there are a number of theories, and we'll go through what that means. But I think what is important to note, and you probably heard it when I was stressing, that all but one of the victims, which was the pregnant Mrs. Schneider, were Italian American grocers or related to them. She did have a husband. He was actually at work that day, but he wasn't in the grocery business. So he just happened to come home to
That's
her.
interesting.
So, the number one theory based on that is that the crimes were related to the Sicilian criminal organization known as the Black Hand. I don't know if you've heard of them before,
I
but they
have
were
heard of them.
big back,
Yes.
yeah. And they were known for extorting the Italian immigrant business owners, pay up or face some violence. This fit the victim profile, and New Orleans did have a documented mafia presence dating back to the 1890 assassination of Police Chief David Hennessy.
Like the whiskey?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is how you spell it. And I was trying to go back and what was how did Key and Peele say it?
Oh.
O'Shaughnessy.
Oh,
It's
Shaughnessy.
you mean
Yeah.
Hennessy?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so he was actually assassinated by the Sicilian crime gang in 1890. He had captured the notorious Italian bandit. He's got his own set of crimes on there. Giuseppe Esposito in 1881. Um, but with that theory, nobody could really figure out how Mrs. Schneider fit in.
Yeah.
So the second theory was that the Axeman was a sexual sadist that was targeting women. And there were two criminologists, Colin and Damon Wilson, who argued that he specifically sought female victims and only killed the men when they interfered or were there. So to support that theory, if you go back, Harriet Lowe died, but Bassumer survived. Schneider was attacked alone. Catherine Maggio was killed, but her husband did end up dying, but he didn't immediately, which suggested that she was hit a little bit harder. Rosie Cortemuggi was injured. Her daughter was killed. Charlie survived. So this just kind of shows that pattern where females are targeted a little
Well,
bit more severely.
wasn't one of them where there's two nieces staying in the house and he didn't attack them though?
Yeah, they were there. And yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, maybe he didn't know they were there and they just happened to catch him as he was running out the door or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that makes this whole thing wild because you can come up with like 12 different theories and find and poke the holes into all of them. And spoiler, he's never been caught. We don't know who he is. So it's just this big thing that's out there and you can't center on a theory. You can't really find the evidence. You
And
can't.
they didn't have like DNA back then or anything else. Like
No.
you
Mm-mm.
really had to rely on word of mouth and, even when it came to like fingerprints or
Yeah.
anything else,
Hmm.
like it had to be like hair
Yeah. Back then,
fibers,
there was
like
nothing. Like you had
yeah,
to
it
have
was
somebody see you and
yeah. Like you were
or get
tracing
caught.
things back like with a shoestring and eyewitness accounts, and everybody knows eyewitness accounts are really very unreliable.
Yeah,
So
they probably wouldn't have caught this guy if he was actually like kept all the axes and took them home and put them in his shed,
yeah.
unless somebody happened to walk by and be like, I just got a lot of axes.
Yeah,
Why don't you
he
go smell that?
does.
Yeah. But I said there's multiple theories, and we continue because I have two more that I want to cover.
Okay, all right.
So the third is that the Axeman wasn't Italian at all, but was specifically targeting that community due to racism.
Oh.
And this was very prevalent in New Orleans at the time. There was a huge anti-Italian sentiment that was widespread across the whole South following that 1891 lynching. So if you remember, I talked about the death
Yeah.
of Police Chief David Hennessy. He got Giuseppe Esposito. Well, then the criminal organization assassinated the police chief, right?
Right.
So
Hmm.
then they ended up, this is another story too. So then they ended up getting the suspects and they're putting them in, and they had 20
Hmm.
in the prison at the time. Some had, and they were going through their series of trials, and some were getting off, and some weren't. They were still in that, but the town ended up having a mass lynching. They went against the whole prison and dragged the 20 Italian folks that were suspected of assassinating the police chief and
Hmm.
lynched 11 of them. Eight were able to get away, and nine, I forget the ninth one. I think he was injured, but he wasn't killed. But they call this the largest mass lynching in US history.
Oh, that's horrible.
And I did some research to make sure that
Hmm.
that wasn't being overly said, and it's true. What I think is a little bit tricky is when we talk about lynching, I don't think of I think of being hung is what I think of with lynching. This
Yeah.
one was actually them pulling them out, and some were hung, three of them were, but some were shot, some were beat to death, like they just
I think
went
you also have to say
away.
documented. This is the largest
You're
documented
correct. You are correct.
because there is a
Hmm.
lot of things that happen to people
That
in the
aren't
South,
accurate.
especially during Jim Crow, where they did not document this
You are
whatsoever. So this is
correct.
probably the largest documented
Yes.
incident of lynching, in
Good
my
call out.
opinion.
That's why I
Yeah.
questioned. I was like, "Are you sure?" Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, but it was that's what I can find. So thank you for calling that out. I think that's a
Yeah.
good I think that's a good call out. But again, in this theory, the pregnant Mrs. Schneider doesn't fit either.
Oh, yeah.
So then we have the jazz promoter theory.
Hmm.
So associated with the Axeman is a famous letter that was delivered to the Times-Picayune on March 13, 1919, that
Hmm.
says, I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing. So, that letter declared that on the night of March 19th, anyone playing jazz would not be hit by the Axeman.
Interesting. That is an
So,
interesting take on that one.
isn't it? So, what do you think New Orleans is going to do? Because, of course, they're always looking for a reason to party. So, they have the
Yeah.
big parties. There's jazz everywhere. Dance halls are full. People are dancing in fear of their lives.
Yes. They're like, I'm gonna stay here if you need me.
I am going to keep doing this dance here until 6 tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
But it worked. No one is actually killed that night. And some have speculated that the Axeman was a fanatical jazz devotee, maybe one of the ones that had been displaced out of Storyville. But most historians believe that this letter was just intended to manipulate, using that as the background, thereby terrifying the city and demonstrating his control or hers. We don't quite know who that is. It could have been
You
Lizzie
never know.
Borden coming down with the axe. I don't know. I do have a copy of the letter that I'll put up there too, but it's quite interesting. But lastly, I did say it was unsolved,
Hmm.
but we do have a suspect. So
Okay.
earlier I had talked about Esther Pepitone, who had accused her neighbor Joseph Mumphrey of murdering her husband, and that she did in fact shoot him dead.
Hmm.
Now, there were some reasons behind it. Some of those are the attacks stopped when he was in prison, and they were resumed when he was released. And
Hmm.
Esther, while she was sentenced to 10 years, is what she got for killing him, she ended up only serving 3, suggesting that the authorities may have believed her. Um, but with no evidence, there was no confession, there was no corroboration of any eyewitness account. Theory could not definitely be proven.
But again, nobody else got murdered and the
Correct.
Axeman disappeared.
Correct.
So maybe justice was served and Esther just had enough. And she was like, I am taking this and I'm going to do it myself.
That's why I said I think she might be her whole episode, because I was reading into, and she married a second time, and actually her second husband, so this was her first husband that ended up
Yeah.
getting killed, axe killed. She married again to an Albert Albano, no
Uh-huh.
relation to Lou Albano, and he disappeared, just
Okay.
disappeared, and she swore Mumphrey did it to him too. So she had had enough. She
Yeah.
actually went into the prison where he was being held and unloaded 2 pistols on him. No apology, just unloaded,
So
and
she
then
thinks
and
that
let him take her.
so she thinks that he didn't just kill her second husband, but her first husband, and she was done.
She
She
was
was
done.
not having it.
She gave him a pistol for each husband. Boom, 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 boom.
Oh,
So she's pretty badass. Like
she is my kind of lady, man.
like I might do a whole episode on
And
her.
then all of a sudden everything stopped.
And then it all
Absolutely, that's
stops.
amazing.
Yeah. So, out of those 4 theories and a suspect, which one are you leaning
I'm
towards?
on Esther because it seems like she really thought this through. And if I know an Italian woman, you are doing your research, you are getting all the gossip, you are finding out exactly what's going on before you make a move. And I'm
Hmm.
sorry, revenge is best served cold. That's for sure.
And she did it very coldly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually leaning towards the mafia theory for a
I was
while.
too. And then all of a sudden Esther came up and I was like, and everything
Yeah.
stopped. I was like,
Yeah.
hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm thinking, I think the Mrs. Schneider was just,
Do you think they got the wrong house?
I don't know if he got the wrong house, or if he was just, how there's copycats that are around there. Maybe somebody was
Yeah.
just like, let me go put it under cover of this other serial killer that's out there. Or
maybe there's a story behind her.
That's
Like,
what I'm thinking. Like she's like the only oddball. Everybody else
yeah,
fits this pattern. So I'm curious. So I was in with the Mafia Theater for a while. And then I don't know, maybe it's a combination where Mumfrey
maybe
decided to
was she
use
cheating
that.
on her husband with an Italian grocer?
I don't know.
Hmm.
I feel like there's definitely a crossover. I think there's a tie in there from the Mafia for a while. And then I
Yeah.
think some copycats or a copycat picked it up and used it to get rid of some folks that they wanted to get rid of. But that's my opinion. But we'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know. It's not
We will
like they
never
had
know.
DNA or they kept anything DNA related that could be usable from back in the day. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, not from there. So why does he endure in our imagination today? And I think it's the mystery, the fact that he was never caught. There's
Hmm.
also the theatricality of it, the jazz ultimatum, the dramatic flair. A whole town literally partied to avoid death for a day.
So is he
Um,
like the American version of Jack the Ripper?
yes, I would say so, actually, but I think he had more victims than Jack the Ripper.
Because Jack the Ripper only had
He
four
only, yeah,
victims.
I was gonna say he only had a few, so he definitely
So,
had some.
and then this person had way more victims
And
because he kept,
actually, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It just came to mind. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, 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 go for it, go for it.
So on the letter, I
Hmm.
believe he signed it Hell, like from Hell.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
So maybe he was inspired or
by Jack the
something.
Ripper.
Or
Because that's
maybe
what I
this
was
was Jack
like,
the Ripper and he decided to upgrade to an X.
I mean, it could be.
I think the timing's about the same, isn't it right? 1800s, 1900s, or was Jack the Ripper earlier?
Jack the Ripper was, I believe, around this time.
Let me look it
I'm
up.
pretty sure. I think he was 18,
I want to say it was
no,
1800s.
he was 1891, I would say, and this person was 1918.
All right. So the active period was between August and November 1888.
I was close. I said 1891, but yeah, he's
Yeah, you were
1888 and this is
close.
1918.
You're right. So it would be 40 years later. I mean, if he was a young man, it's possible. I think it's a stretch.
Hmm.
I think it's
Yeah.
a stretch, though. But I did hear that the Jack the Ripper did actually go to America for a while when he was
That
done,
was my
according to one of
thing.
the
I was
theories. Yeah.
like, yeah, the theory is he went to America. So I was like, is
Maybe,
this?
maybe Jack the Ripper taught the Axeman,
Everybody has an apprentice.
right? We've seen that a few times.
Yes, we have, unfortunately.
It's a whole cool theory. So yeah, so that is where we are with the Axeman, and I think a lot of that drama just comes from New Orleans as a town anyway, because this is where history and myth blend together like spices in a
I
gumbo.
mean,
There's
it
ghosts everywhere.
does. There's ghosts, there's vampires, apparently. I mean,
Not apparently,
like,
they are out there, man. They are out there. Yeah,
she's like, I've seen that. They're out
I
there.
have seen them. Yes, I have seen them. I've also seen Captain Boomerang in the neighborhood down the street. Remind me to tell you about that.
Oh,
One
that's
day.
Florida man. That's
It
different.
was absolutely Florida man. So I took Ian, my son and daughter, soon-to-be daughter-in-law, were down visiting, and we went to go look at a neighborhood because they were thinking about moving down here. We wanted to go check out this house, and we're going through the neighborhood. Absolutely love the house. And as we're leaving, there's a house that has like this huge American flag backdrop that's coming and covering its garage doors. And this man comes walking through and he's wearing a neon green do-rag, neon green Speedos. He's got hair like Hulk Hogan, like bleached white blonde hair, mirrored Ray-Ban aviators, and two boomerangs. And he is totally out there with his boomerangs. And I was like, we just called him Captain Boomerang. Anyhow, I don't know. I got to go back through that neighborhood on another time.
That's
Just see
awesome.
what's
That is
going on.
amazing. Every single time I'm like, every time I go down to Florida, I see a Florida man and I'm like, I look at my son and I'm like, yo, Loosh. I'm like, to your right, to your right. He's like, Florida man.
We make a joke about it all the time, but this is the first time that they actually like saw him in the wild. And I was like, yep, that's Florida man. Keep an eye out.
Awesome.
It's a real thing, folks. It's a real thing.
It is absolutely a real thing.
So the Axeman himself, well, Florida man is a sign of Florida's weirdness. The Axeman is also a symbol of New Orleans, the city's resilience in the face of fear and its strange and beautiful relationship with music. Um, so Jen, any last comments or thoughts we
No, I
want to
think we
cover?
covered it with the span of our ADHD at this point.
Yes, I think so too. So until next week, everybody, this is The Haunting Truth, and we thank you for joining us on our tour of New Orleans today again. Again, please go back and listen to some of our past episodes. So stay curious. And if you happen to notice that your axe isn't where you left it, maybe just put on some jazz and have a party.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.